Hi, I'm Bill Bonfanti.
And I'm Frank Nocerino.
Welcome to Box Office Bang Up. This weekend we're going to be talking about the releases coming out. We've got two movies coming out. DreamWorks unleashes its 3D animated adventure, How to Train Your Dragon.
The raunchy comedy Hot Tub Time Machine.
Great. So those are the two movies coming out this week. As you may know, Frank and I discussed these films in order to help people trade on the Cantor Exchange. For those of you who don't know what the Cantor Exchange is, Cantor Exchange is a website where you'll be able to trade movies based on their box office take. Trade them like they're like stocks, but it's really futures contracts, but it's really not worth going into here right now. It's relatively the same thing. All you really need to know is that if you think a movie's going to be a hit at the box office, you can try to buy it on the exchange and hope that you're right. Or if you think it's going to bomb, you can sell it first and then buy it back cheaper once the film does actually bomb. How it works is basically every contract is based on 1/1,000,000th of the actual box office take of a film. So if a film were to make $100 million at the box office, the contract would cash out at $100 per contract. So it's pretty straightforward. Anyone that wants to find out information about it can go to cantorexchange.com. They have just ended the practice period. There was a practice period from October to March 22nd. If you'd like to take a look at what a portfolio looks like for the Cantor Exchange, I posted mine live on filmgo.net. It shows you all my gains and losses, every trade that I've made from that period. I am happy to report I did really, really well. I was up 150% over 6 months.
Very good.
So I can't wait for next month, April 22nd, when it opens with real money.
Real money.
And now it's time to put my money where my mouth is.
Exactly.
But that being said, let's get to this weekend's movies. Like we said, first we have How to Train Your Dragon. That will obviously be the #1 film this week.
Obviously.
So what do you think, Frank?
I actually am going with about $70 million for this picture. I compare it to Kung Fu Panda. I compare it to Monsters vs. Aliens. Those movies made $60 million. I believe this movie's a little better, a little broader appeal. I saw Alice in Wonderland make $116 million a couple of weeks ago, which blew everybody off the charts. So I'm thinking this movie's it's a hit. It's $70 million, and they're going to be happy with it.
It's definitely a hit. I mean, no doubt. The reviews have been incredible. It's the best reviewed film of the year so far. It's at like 93% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It's definitely going to draw in an audience. I don't necessarily think it's going to make $70 million this weekend. I think it's going to more fall in the neighborhood of Kung Fu Panda and Monsters vs. Aliens. $60 million for the opening weekend would be my guess. Monsters vs. Aliens did come out exactly this weekend last year. It is a smart weekend to release a family film because it leads into spring vacation over the next 2 weeks for all the schools, so kids are home, and that's good. That makes Sunday like a Saturday at the box office, which is great.
That is very good.
But there is a glut of 3D films right now. Alice in Wonderland is still occupying quite a few 3D screens. There's only so many in the country. And next week, Clash of the Titans comes out in 3D as well. So that's gonna, it's definitely sort of a glut. But
I agree with the glut, but unfortunately, I think Clash of the Titans is going to get the hit of this. I don't think that How You Train Your Dragon is going to be affected by this glut right now. I think it's still a hot movie. I think kids are going to love to see it. The effects look awesome in 3D. I think it's a hit. I'm going with $70 million.
I do think that, to be honest with you, I'm going to talk about this glut. Quite personally, I don't think it's going to affect any of the movies.
Okay.
I really don't. The quality of the movie is key here, and I think Clash of the Titans is going to be a big hit next weekend. But anyway, How to Train Your Dragon. I've read some deficits from other box office analysts and other people talking about this film that maybe the stars in this film aren't quite as big as Monsters vs. Aliens.
I
don't think think it really matters either. But Monsters vs. Aliens had Reese Witherspoon, had Kiefer Sutherland, Seth Rogen, who was huge at that point. I mean, he's still big, but that was like the hottest he was at that point. And this really has Jay Baruchel in the lead role. It has Gerard Butler and America Ferrera. So not quite big names,
A-list,
but I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters who voices it. The film looks great, and kids are going to want to see it. I want to see it. I'm 35 years old.
I understand.
So
that's why I'm going with $70 million.
Yeah. So I think you could be right. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that you could be right, but I'm going to go with a more conservative $60 million. There is some competition. Alice in Wonderland going into its 4th weekend. Yeah, it's losing 3D screens this weekend, but
that's still going to make $20 million.
It's still going to make about 17 million this weekend. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, another family film, opened way stronger last weekend than I had expected. Opened at about $22.1 million.
Yeah, I think we both predicted like 15 with that.
Yeah, we did, and I think it'll make that about 13 this weekend.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So about 42% drop off. So there is more competition in How to Train Your Dragon has to face than Monsters vs. Aliens did last year. Monsters vs. Aliens only had to compete with Race to Witch Mountain. That was the only family film, and it was in its 3rd or 4th week of release at that point, and it wasn't a big hit. So So
I
Monsters
agree that
Inc.
there is
really-
a little more competition in the family way. I
But
understand.
nonetheless, I do think it's going to post the same number, 60 million. And for those of you that don't know, on the Cantor Exchange, the contracts are going to trade for 6 months prior to the film's release, and then for another 4 weeks after that. I determine that 4-week period. I call it the popcorn period.
Popcorn period.
Just to make it easy.
I like it.
That's what I'm talking about
Very
when I
good.
say the popcorn period. So I think during the popcorn period, How to Train Your Dragon could bring in about $165 million. What do you think?
I agree. Even with the $70 million opening, I see it coming in about $165 million. I do.
Cool. All right, great. So we pretty much agree. We're both very
there.
very excited about this film. We both think
Bullish
it's going to
on
be a big hit.
Dragon.
I think it's important to point out that a lot of other box office analysts are going way, way lower on this film. I've seen predictions ranging from 35 to 45 million.
No way.
I
think
you
it's
know,
more than
we
that. I
are
really
we
do.
are higher than everybody else,
I
but
do.
I just have a really good feeling
Me
about
too.
this film.
I like this movie. I think it's going to do very well.
So moving along, let's get on to the next film for the weekend, Hot Tub Time Machine, starring John Cusack. This is a silly comedy. It may very well be the best titled movie in history.
It's an excellent title.
Hot Tub Time Machine. It tells you everything. It tells you
Exactly.
that what it's about. It tells you that it's a stupid comedy. And it really does lower your expectations so that you go in there and it's going to be better than you could possibly expect. It's called Hot Tub Time Machine.
Correct,
How
correct.
good can
Snakes
it
on
be?
a plane.
Right,
Hot
exactly.
Tub Time Machine. I
Right,
understand.
exactly.
But Hot Tub Time Machine actually is getting fantastic reviews.
Fantastic.
Everyone says it's fantastic. John Cusack, 20 years back in the future is perfect for him
Right.
because he was hot in '86.
Well,
and
it's
all
a-
that,
it's a
which
good-
is
it's a good
great
in-joke.
casting in there.
It's a good in-joke, yeah, John
And
Cusack.
he's hot with 2012. I think this movie is actually going to make between $32 million this week. I
32
really do.
million.
$32 million this weekend.
I think you may be a little bit high. Initially with this film, I was thinking in like the $15 million range until the reviews started coming out. It's getting some good buzz. I think it could make about $24 million this weekend.
Billy, I've been waiting for that comedy. You know, I said it about Bounty Hunter last
this is
week.
it.
And I think this was the one. I'm not saying it's going to do Hangover numbers at 200
It's
million
not
and
possible,
change.
but yeah.
I don't think it's going to open to Hangover opened to 45 million, which
45
was
million,
a surprise. So I'm not going to say it's that high, but I do think it's going to be around $32 million this week.
All right, cool. Well, anyway, I think 24 million. You think 32 million. Anyway, we're both still high on it. I do see a lot of the other analysts are saying about 18 million for this, so
I think it's a little
they're a
better
little
than
bit
that.
lower as well.
Right.
I'm very, very bullish on this entire weekend.
Me too, that's what I was
going
gonna
to
say.
Two great movies opening, two well-reviewed movies. Like you said, the marketplace has been, there's been no comedies at all. The Bounty Hunter doesn't count. That's a romantic comedy. It doesn't
Right,
doesn't
that's
bring in
like
the
a
same
broad
male
R-rated,
R-rated
right,
raunchy audience.
comedy that Hot Tub will bring in.
I think it is important, though, this is an R-rated film, an R-rated raunchy comedy, to compare it to other films such as like I Love You Man and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which both opened in the $17-18 million range. I think this can do a little bit better, so I'm going with 24, and I would say about 65 to 70 million over the 4-week popcorn period.
I'm going to go with 32 million for Hot Tub Time Machine with about 80 million for the 4-week popcorn period.
All right, so really, just to sum it up, we're both again very excited about the films this weekend.
All right.
How to Train Your Dragon, I'm going with 60 million for the weekend. I'm going for 165 over the popcorn period.
I'm going with 70 million and 165 over the popcorn period.
Okay, and Hot Tub Time Machine, a little difference of opinion here as well, but we're both still think it's going to do really well. So
Yeah.
24 million, and I say about 70 million over the 4 weeks.
And I'm going a little bit higher at 35 million, 35 and about 82 million for the popcorn period.
Okay, so that's great. That's this weekend's films. Next week, we're going to be talking about 3 new films that are coming out. We've got Miley Cyrus's dramatic debut in The Last Song, Nicholas Sparks' novel,
Clash of the Titans, starring Sam Worthington.
which is, of course, a remake of the 1980 film, which I used to love when I was a kid. I'm sure it's pretty bad now.
Let's see.
And Tyler Perry unleashes his latest film, Why Did I Get Married To? And, of course, I will have trouble predicting that because, for some reason, Tyler Perry
Makes
movies,
money.
I'm never right.
He makes money.
I'm never right with them. I was right
Unbelievable.
one time
Right.
with I could do bad all by myself. And he can do bad all by himself. So, anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good night.